Thank you for tuning in to the Jalixa Media Podcast. I'm your host, Jalixa Newman, and today we have the pleasure of chatting with Esteban Gergely from the law offices of Crum, Gergely & Oaks, one of the most prominent law firms in the DMV area. Thank you for joining us, Esteban.
Thank you for having me, Jalixa.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and what led you to start the KGO Firm?
So I'm originally from Argentina. I kind of have this kind of dual nationality. I was born there, but I lived the majority of my life here. My parents brought me here when I was 8 months old. But I still kind of maintain the Argentine culture because when I was growing up, I learned Spanish and English at the same time. So I kind of have that sangre argentina with a side of American. I'm a U.S. citizen, but I think the people that know me would probably say there are a lot of things about me that are Argentine, the good and the bad.
I mean, I'm surprised you're not wearing a Messi shirt.
Oh, they're decorated all around my office. I cry every morning. I watch videos of Messi, the World Cup. My wife is like, dude, give it up. It's been 3 months.
And you know what? You deserve to celebrate.
We will celebrate 4 years. And then in 4 years, we will celebrate 4 more years when we win the next World Cup.
Absolutely. Let's talk about KGO. What do you think sets KGO apart from others in the area? And what do you believe has contributed to the success?
Honestly, results are obviously what clients are looking for in court. Nobody's happy if they got the best customer service, but, they went to jail. Right. Just like at a restaurant. I mean, even if the waiter was charming, but the food tasted like shit, you're probably not going to recommend it. People love to talk about great service, but I don't think any restaurant gets recommended unless the actual, product is good. But there are other attorneys who can also deliver great results. We don't claim to be the only good attorneys in town. When it comes to who's the best, it's probably a matter of taste. So a lot of the emphasis, since we can deliver the results, comes in the customer service, how we treat the customer, how we explain the process to someone. The court experience is like traveling to a foreign country. You don't understand the language. You don't understand the customs. You don't know what can happen. You defer to other people because you don't know the rules of the game. And so, we are kind of like that medium between the client and the court so that they're actually, they actually understand the language. They understand the custom. Things are explained to them, in their own language, and they're able to kind of make decisions. We don't subscribe to the idea that we make the decisions and then kind of tell the client what's happening. We do the opposite. I mean, we help them make a decision, obviously. And, when they're uncertain on what to do, we give them our advice, which is our job. But we make sure that they are making their own decisions based on all the advice we give. So I think that's sets us apart.
I mean, one of the things that I always look at when I hire an attorney, and I am blessed to say I haven't hired many attorneys in my life, is that I don't want a stuffy one. I want one that's going to tell me what's going to happen, to be blunt with me. I want one that's going to get my comments and maybe even my jokes. That's what I look for in an attorney, someone who's intelligent, aggressive, understands me and gets me. Because if I, come out with a joke and you don't get it, went over your head, I'm like, this guy's not going to understand me.
I mean, listen, I work with people all day that don't get jokes because I work with judges and prosecutors with no sense of humor. But and when they have a good sense of humor, the results are usually a lot better. But I agree with you. I mean, there has to be a personal connection between, the lawyer and the client. I guess sometimes, if it's a surgeon, you don't need it. If it's an accountant, you don't need it. But I mean, imagine going to like a psychologist for a mental health problem and not connecting with them. You'd probably move on. The lawyer's a little bit similar because so much of like your future depends on the lawyer understanding your problem. And there aren't, we do a lot of different types of law, but in every different type of law, there's nuances that people have to kind of understand in order to get the most out of the representation. And if your lawyer can't connect with you, those things aren't going to come across. Right. They need to understand your sense of humor, or else you might make a joke. And if they take it seriously, they might think you're serious about what you're joking about, and things might go a different way in court.
That's a good point. What do you consider to be the biggest challenges facing law firms today? And how do you address these challenges in your own practice?
Honestly, I think I don't know why I said honestly. I feel like any lawyer who says that's probably how they lie.
All of a sudden you're lying.
Yeah. I've actually never met anyone who says honestly and then told the truth. So let me lie to you, Julixa.
Okay, let's do that.
Lawyers generally, for some reason, and I think there's been a change, are taking a step back from aggressive and zealous representation. Now, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. There's certainly a lot of lawyers out there that practice aggressively, but if you go into a courtroom, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, obviously, this is my opinion, but the way I view things in court is a lot of lawyers are afraid to challenge the judge, challenge the prosecutor, challenge the police, maybe challenge, if it's not a criminal case, challenge the witnesses in a family case, challenge the evidence that's put forth. There almost seems to be a tendency now to kind of defer to what people are saying. And I mean, the world we live in now has probably more lies than truths. We see it in the media, whether you're on the left or you're right, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you see lies everywhere. So it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. The people on the right have a point and the people on the left have a point. And, whether it's Fox versus CNN or anything, or any political figures, there's just so much bullshit that it's unbelievable that in a courtroom, lawyers are reluctant to challenge stuff that, is weak, isn't supported by evidence, isn't, and doesn't follow logic. I have cases all the time where I'm like, okay, I understand the victim said this.
Right.
Like, we weren't born yesterday. Does this really sound reasonable?
Right. Okay. Well,
and judges are afraid. I think judges, the other problem is judges are afraid to do things, even though their common sense tells them to go one way, that don't follow public opinion. Whether it's supporting a cause, there's lots of causes now. There's BLM, there's Me Too, there is, and these are all good causes. But, going through the judge's minds, I support both movements, but going through judges' minds is my opinion going to look like it goes against one of these things? Or is it going to look like I don't support victims? Or am I going to look racist? Or, am I anti-immigrant or am I pro-immigrant? And so I think going through the judges' minds, unfortunately, is a lot on how they're going to be judged, which is exactly the opposite of what a judge should do. He should make an objective decision free from emotion and passion and just, follow the law and apply the law and the facts and, come to an honest decision.
Honesty. So you've actually had an instance where you're listening to a case, you're reading the case documents and you're going, this just doesn't make sense, but everyone else in the room thinks it does?
Yeah. I mean, all the time. I mean, when we have a jury trial, I remember I just had a jury trial a couple of weeks ago, and I remember in my closing statement, I'm like, what really makes us nervous is we don't know what's going through your minds right now. Even though we are 100% convinced that this sounds like absolute horseshit, we don't know whether you're thinking. And the jurors just kind of smiled and nodded their heads because, there's a power struggle. We're trying to get 12 people to agree with what we think is an obvious decision. And, things went well and they agreed. But, we didn't know until they rendered their verdict. So the judges are kind of different. I mean, the judges, we can't talk to them like that because everything offends them. And, some judges obviously are good and they're not temperamental. But, they're afraid to make unpopular decisions like rule against an alleged victim or believe the police are lying. I mean, believe the police are lying. We have cases where we have a video showing that the police lied and the judges and the police, and this has happened on more than one occasion, will tell us, well, the quality of the camera on my body camera is not good, so it doesn't pick it up.
Oh, come on.
So basically what their explanation is, the county entered into a multi-million-dollar, I can only assume, contract to produce these body cameras, made sure that they were probably of the highest integrity, kind of like the ones you use in your studio, Julixa.
Right.
And that's the only AI would look this good on camera. And they're going to do all that and choose a shitty lens that just distorts the evidence. And they say that in court, and the judges are still, I mean, I'm not saying they all buy that. I assume most of them chuckle, but the fact that an officer is comfortable saying there's a video showing something that isn't true means it's been believed for too long, because they feel too comfortable saying something that sounds to any average person like bullshit.
That's like your kid when he eats an Oreo, has black teeth, and tells you he didn't eat it.
Right. Except, and then you show him the video that you have in your house showing him eating the Oreo, and he's like,
no,
that's an old camera.
The quality is not good.
Right.
Oreo.
Imagine your 5-year-old being like, well, that was made before HD existed.
Oh, man. No. Give me a break. Talking about cases, what has been one of the most challenging cases that you can think of, that you can discuss?
I mean, I can discuss any case that's over with.
Was there one?
I can generalize it. The most challenging cases are the ones where you truly believe the client's innocent. And I know that sounds bad because, a lot of people who hire us, it's not like we're only hired by the innocent. And, if we only took innocent clients, first of all, we don't know which ones are innocent. But second of all, we'd probably be out of business really soon.
Mm-hmm, you'd be right.
Guilty people also need lawyers because they need to minimize their guilt, or they need a lawyer to get them out of something they've actually done, which is still our job. And we're proud to do it. The more guilty people we get off, the more guilty people are referred to us, the better our business is. But
absolutely. Hey, word goes around, right?
But when somebody innocent, I mean, the trial that I talked about last week, we had somebody we were 100% convinced was innocent. The police were distorting some of the statements that the person made, and they were facing a life sentence, life in prison. So, the system, a lot of people like to say the system isn't perfect. And that's like saying I'm not really, really tall. Like I'm 5'6". I'm not really, really tall. I'm short. Right. So the system isn't perfect. It sucks. Or like when people say that, there's a couple bad apples in the police. No, there's plenty of shitty police officers. Like, let's stop minimizing. Let's stop, there's obviously degrees to everything. And there's some very good police officers, and the system does work sometimes, but the system is more than imperfect. I think that doesn't do the justice system justice when we kind of speak of it in terms of, well, every process has mistakes. The system has probably as many mistakes as it has correct, outcome, for lack of a better word. I mean, mistakes are made every day in every courtroom, across the state, across the country. And the mistakes are made primarily because people are afraid to make hard decisions.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sure that you've had clients that come to you because they've already hired an attorney and they're not happy with their attorney. What's the number one red flag that you can tell someone, listen, if you're talking to your attorney and this person says this or does this, walk away slowly?
That's a good question. Number one, we don't like to take people that left their attorney. Now, all attorneys have a reputation. The reputation, I think, isn't my reputation. It's what everybody else says. People like to describe their reputation. I'm like, actually, you're the one person who doesn't know your reputation. Everybody else does. But so depending on the lawyer they're talking about, also, we can get a pretty good feel. Like sometimes I'll get somebody that says, this lawyer didn't fight for me. And I know the lawyer, and the lawyer is an aggressive, intelligent lawyer who, does his job every time I see him. And then I'm like, okay, obviously this is somebody who can't be satisfied by anybody. Then there's sometimes, when somebody bounces around a couple lawyers, you're like, all right, is he paying everybody half their fee?
Exactly.
And then there's clients that they think that by hiring you, they own you. And, we love our clients, don't get me
Right.
wrong, but I guess maybe that's an exaggeration, just like the system isn't perfect.
Only your
We
wife.
love a good majority of our clients. Right. But there are, the office knows the clients by name that we don't like. In fact, if we're not that familiar with your name, you're a good client because that means we answer your phone calls, you don't complain, we do our job, and you don't ask us to do things that are way outside the normal, you know, job and responsibility that any lawyer representing clients have.
Now, I know you have a great team. I've been to your office, and I mean, you have a really efficient team. When it comes to hiring and building a strong team, what qualities do you look for in potential employees?
I think the number one thing is personality, intelligence. Listen, I don't know. I don't know how intelligent I am. I don't know how intelligent anybody else is. I can see somebody who's remarkably intelligent, but other than that, I think most people aren't. I mean, I tend to think most people are intelligent. I mean, there are some people who don't apply their intelligence, and that usually comes through in their personality. So,
I think it's also a
how
lack of common sense.
anybody who works hard at anything can figure something out. I mean, I'm not talking about nuclear physics, but like
Right.
the jobs that, I mean, even being a lawyer, being a good lawyer does not require, it's not rocket science. Now, I'm not saying there's not an art to being a good lawyer, and certainly people dedicate a lot of time and effort to their craft and are better than others. But what we really look for when we're hiring an employee is personality, the ability to, be loyal to the firm, the ability to talk respectfully in the interview, because that's probably the way they're going to treat the clients, the seriousness which they give the interview. We also obviously look at their background, the places that they've worked for. Are they somebody who's, um, you know, taken a job and stayed there for a while? If you bounce around a lot of jobs, it's usually you, not them.
Right, right. I would
Like,
be the worst fit then because I'd probably look at someone and speak to them about their case and be like, "Oh, buddy, you were screwed. I don't know what to tell you." Like,
I mean, listen, it's just like when you're dating and you meet that person and all they talk about is how horrible every single one of their exes were, and you're like,
oh, absolutely.
let me think.
Exactly. But you chose them. So
Yeah.
everything's a little
So
confusing.
everybody else is driving on the wrong side of the road.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to someone who's considering starting their own law firm or even entering into the legal profession?
Well, entering into the legal profession, I don't know what the market's like right now. Finding we have had trouble finding qualified lawyers for our position, which either means I don't think it means there aren't qualified candidates. We've even given job offers to people who eventually gave reasons that I don't think were the most professional when it came to why they declined the job. Like they really wanted the job, and we've had somebody that said, "Yeah, but then I figured out the commute was too long." And these are people who have been through law school, so it's like, well, I mean, first of all, you drove to the interview. Like we didn't
Right.
have it in a central station. Um, I don't know. I mean, most of the modern cars now have an odometer.
It's
I don't
interesting.
figure it out, but um, the new generation of maybe it has to do with just, I mean, people don't want to hear criticisms about millennials. Millennials are who we're going to hire to be our new attorneys, and we have some, and they're fabulous. But I guess hiring attorneys is a difficult job. And so your question was, what do you recommend to lawyers? Starting your own
Mhm.
law firm, I think, is a great idea. You know, I think the number one thing when you start a law firm is you talk to other lawyers who have law firms, and their favorite answer is don't do it. And they tell you how hard it is. And they tell you all the complications you're going to run into. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, it makes them look good because they've achieved all these, they've overcome all these obstacles, and Lord
Right.
knows have to brag about like how amazing they are. Number two, they don't want competition, and if they see you as a good lawyer, they figure, I don't know, maybe he'll take business from you. Number three, lawyers like to be negative. They like to be like, oh, life's been so hard these 20 years representing people in court and getting paid good money for it.
Right.
I don't know how I did it. I'm a survivor, so
Totally agree.
lawyers are, if you get candid advice, and there are candid lawyers, I'm friends with plenty of them, they will tell you, yeah, it's probably a good idea. You have to be able to hustle and get customers. I mean, not everybody can do that. But the people who can't do that and end up being good lawyers get referrals from other lawyers. And so instead of like charming their way into business, they have other lawyers who recognize their talent and send them clients. I do that. I mean, I can think of a couple lawyers right now who I probably don't impress in the client interview, but I would send them the hardest case right now because I know how outstanding they are in the courtroom.
I think hustle is very important. I'm glad you touched that because I recently read an article in the New York Times that said that ChatGPT actually passed the bar in New York. And I'm thinking, you want to be able to be represented by a human being, someone who's got hustle, who's aggressive, not someone who's only going through textbook laws. Someone who can see like the gray area. If you're guilty, hey, I want someone who's going to look at the gray area, not just black and white. But I was reading that article the other day and I'm like, this is going to be very interesting.
Right. When
are you competing with AI, Esteban?
No, because the thing is, it's a great question. And, if you start your own law firm and you can't hustle and you're new, then people don't know how good you can be. So you're not only not going to be bringing in clients based on your hustle ability, but like you're not going to get referrals because you're unknown. And so, you'll take whoever walks in the door. And generally, when you're taking those kinds of clients, then they're not very good clients. So, there is, I guess, just like restaurants, I don't know what the statistics are, but I think, a large majority, not a majority, but there's a large portion of lawyers who open, hang out their own shingle, like they say, and then they end up, closing up shop because they can't maintain a successful business. So
I think a lot of people these days also want remote jobs. They don't want to go into an office.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big like work from the office type of person because if you're not here, first of all, the staff can't communicate with you effectively. You're only available by phone. Your face isn't in the office. You can't take walk-in clients. You can't handle emergencies. You're kind of, if you're working from home a lot, you're just kind of catering to your own needs and tastes. And, if that's the way you're going to do it, I think that's a selfish way to run a business.
That's true. That's very true. Tell us about a book, movie, or piece of art that you consider to be meaningful or impactful in your life.
Wow. Everybody just realized I don't read books.
I mean, one of mine is The Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. I think that's an amazing book.
I mean, I could read it.
In my office.
You know what book I like? I should know the name if I like it that much, but I haven't read it or listened to it in a while, if I'm being honest, because obviously we can do the audio thing now. Right. But How to Make Friends and what is it called? How to Make Friends and Interest People. It's by hold on. You know what? Take advantage of this video and influence people. How to Make Friends and Influence People.
It's funny because I think you're the last person I would ever imagine reading a book about influencing people. You've got a great influence on people.
Yeah, I know. First of all, it made me feel good that I naturally do some of these things.
Yes.
Dale Carnegie wrote this book like 50 years ago that if you read it, one of the things you'll notice, because it's also a book, I mean, same thing with you. You know what I mean? I think you and I have similar personalities. That's why we click. Hopefully it comes through in this studio interview.
Oh, it
chemistry between interviewer and interviewee is just incredible. But one of the things he does is the things that you do naturally, Julixa, he explains a little bit. He basically breaks down what you do naturally, and what it allows you to do is take it in, and then you can intentionally do what you do naturally. Because the truth is, the things that you do naturally that are positive in your life, you can't do when you're in a bad mood, off your game, somebody pisses you off. But if you actually understand what naturally comes to you and why it works, then you can, unfortunately, the truth is you can kind of force yourself to do them when you don't feel like it. And so, and
Yeah.
it can also, I mean, the fact that you and I know how to do that usually comes with a negative side. The negative side is, even though we know how to influence people, make friends and influence people, we also know how to pick fights and make
Absolutely.
people hate us. You know what I mean? And it's not like we're trying to make people hate us, but we definitely know going into this person's not going to like us, and we don't give a shit.
Mm.
And the book helps you kind of, erase that text you were going to send,
Okay.
rewrite that email, and then be like, well, what do I really want to gain from this? As a lawyer, lots of times lawyers love to talk, and they love to say things, but the smartest lawyers know when to talk, and they talk less. Frankly, a lot of the best lawyers know that there are battles they shouldn't fight. There's things that don't need to be said, even though you can say them. There's points that don't need to be made because the person already kind of gets it. And the book tells you, it breaks down to its most basic core. Dale Carnegie tells you to the most basic core, the things that make people like you, that, like I said, are natural to you and me, but, people like people who are interested in them. Like if
Right.
I sat through this whole interview, I mean, you're interviewing me, so I can't help but talk about myself. But I
That's
assume
the whole point.
if for this interview all I did was talk about how great I was, I don't think it'd be a very popular interview.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I have a lot of unsubscribers.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not on, Twitter. I'm not on all social media, as much as obviously like the earlier generations, and people love to take it. I don't know that many people who love their friends who are constantly like,
Right. Oh, that's so
and just
true.
like posing for the camera, unless you're Beyonce or like somebody famous. But everybody has that friend who loves taking selfies of themselves. And guess what? We talk shit about you behind your back.
Well, 1000%. It's fun.
Yeah, it's
I mean, that's
absolutely
what
fun
it is.
because you're full of yourself. And guess the only person who loves you that much is you. Nobody else does.
You and probably your mama. You have a good
Probably, but even your mama might talk shit. Mama's talk shit. You might be surprised if you've got a brother or sister. They know your mom talks shit about you. They're just not telling you.
That's true. That's true. Where can we find you if you want to inquire about your services?
You can find me pretty
I
much
know your website's
anytime, anywhere. You can obviously call my office number. We're a bit, we try to say we're available 24/7. That's just one of the lies we like to tell because obviously every lawyer sleeps.
Mhm.
But we are in the business that we're at. And I think you can probably relate to this as a mother when of many children.
Many.
Sorry, listen, too many to count. You just popped a lot out. But
I manage 5 amazing children.
I
Yes.
mean, yeah, not including others that are adults. We won't get into who actually qualifies
Mhm.
as a child, but
Absolutely.
yeah, you deal with a lot of children.
Mhm.
And I had a point, of course, that left me, but like, how important it is when you have a kid and like the kid's sick and it's like a critical situation. You desperately try to call the pediatrician at 9 at night, and the pediatrician has an answering service and doesn't get back to you, and there's all that tension when things are, I don't know, they're usually not a life or death situation, but to any mother,
Right.
any sick child is of great concern. And
Right.
so I'm not trying to blow up our business, but people also think that way. I mean, the truth is, if someone's getting arrested, I can't go in there and uncuff them. You
Right.
know what I mean? I can't I'm not out there to I can't be like, listen, police officer, what you're doing is wrong. And get out my book of laws. And the officer all of a sudden goes, you know what?
You're right.
I'm convinced this man, I was about to handcuff an innocent man.
Oh, man.
Sir, here's an apology. Where were you going? Let me drive you to wherever you were going. I apologize on behalf of the entire police department. We sincerely regret what we did.
That
But,
is amazing.
just talking to somebody makes them comfortable. Okay, he'll be taken to a commissioner. The commissioner will decide whether he's released. If he's not released, we can appear before a judge. We can get him out on bond. This person, they want this person free. And that's in a criminal case or in a family case. Are they going to take my kids away? So we like to be as available as we can, which is not a great answer to your question, but we make efforts to be available outside of normal business hours because we know that that gives our clients peace of mind.
Absolutely. Esteban, I can talk to you for hours, and actually, I think I have over the phone. Thank
It's
you
okay.
so much.
Listen, I took enough drugs. I can talk for hours too.
Right? Thank you so much for joining us, Esteban. For all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And remember to follow us on Apple, Spotify, and all social media platforms. We're at Jalixa Media. Until next time.
Until next time, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I can't wait till the next show. When's our next show, Jalixa?
Oh, I'll be calling you in about 2 minutes.
I'm trying to influence people right now.